My best and favorite motto is fail fast. Just keep moving, fail fast, keep moving, fail fast. And when you do that, you're going to get the best return on your investment.
Hey everybody, this is Adrianna Munoz, your host of Sedate the Stress, where we talk all things women in leadership. Today we will have on Rene Clayton. Rene Clayton is a seasoned IT professional with over 25 years of experience. She has led major software development projects in finance and authored many journal publications and a new book this year. She enjoys mentoring rising talent. Join us today to explore her journey in today's episode of Sedate the Stress. Hello, everybody. We are on with the wonderful Rene Clayton. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Rene. I'm so excited to have you on.
I am so honored that you had me on your podcast today.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't think of anybody better to kick off the technology portion of this podcast, being that I'm an executive coach for women in STEM. I think of tech and I automatically think of you. So I'd love, even though I did an initial little introduction about you, I'd love for you to give us a quick little, or not even quick, whatever you feel like sharing with people listening, a little bit of you and your quote unquote origin story.
Absolutely. First of all, I'm so delighted to be here with you and your audience. My story is really interesting. I think it's maybe slightly different than some. I currently am working as a strategist on emerging technology, including artificial intelligence, all sorts of digital and other technologies in the industry. I didn't come into the technology area maybe the way other people did. For instance, maybe doing a lot of computer classes in high school or college or having a computer science degree. None of that happened for me. I wanted to go along a completely different path. And in my 20s, I even had a completely different career. I became a single mom in my late 20s. And that made me realize that I needed to pivot and kind of sort of move my career into a different level. I needed to support my daughter and myself, and the world was changing. And we're talking about the late 90s. So the internet was relatively new to a lot of us. And it was newer to me because I had not had a technology background. I had started working a little bit inside of it based on what I had to do for my role as an executive assistant. Fast forward, I started going to night school and met a bunch of really fun computer nerds, lack of better words. And on Friday and Saturday nights, this was our fun night. We would put together super interesting networks, and we would build computers, and we would fix laptops, and we would work on routers, and we would design all sorts of different computer systems for some of our friends. And I got to learn by trial and error on the weekends when I was just playing and studying for my night classes. Wow. I went on to getting several certifications. And then I had worked through a temporary agency and landed my first role as a network administrator. Now, what a network administrator does is you take care of servers, and a server is a larger computer or that can handle large enterprise applications and data. And it's really more of a senior level role, but somehow the universe just landed me this job, and I didn't know what I was doing at all other than what I had learned in school. And that's how I landed my very first job in IT. And I just learned on the job and by trial and error and calling a friend. I don't know if you remember that show, but you could call a friend, and I would call a friend if I didn't know something, or I'd have a book with me because at the time we didn't have Google.
That is such a cool story. And so a few things really stand out to me. One, it sounds like you had this love of computers, and the things that you did in your free time with your friends were piecing together these mechanical objects to understand how they work. And then you graduated to taking care of these really big servers. That's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it was great. To this day, I still am not sure how that all worked out. because I got my second job in a similar way. I worked at that company for about a year. Then I got hired onto a software development company and got to learn about software development and servers that handled big, large sets of marketing data. And I wasn't the first choice. I wasn't the first pick. They actually picked one or two more people, and then they turned down the role, and I went ahead and got the job. And again, met friends, called friends, got help, learned along the way, watched and just absorbed everything around me, and continued my education. I continued taking night classes all along this way. And by the way, my daughter was such a good sport about it. I ended up getting her a new bike a couple of times and teaching her how to ride bikes, and just really rewarding her for being so patient when her mom was going to school at night. And some of it was online and some of it was in person.
Wow. And what I'm also thinking about, because I know that there's an article that you recently published on LinkedIn, you wrote about this generation of women they have this very unique perspective on technology.
Mhm.
And specifically your experience, because I also remember when the internet was new and then everyone's, what is this? What's it going to turn into? And then now we all have these mini computers in our pocket, and now with I guess, what is the unique perspective that you bring to technology? Because it's definitely there, but I'd love to hear you be the one to explain that.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think what women bring to the table in general with all technology and even leadership is their empathy and their collaborative approach. And I'm not saying that men are not collaborative or have empathy, because they absolutely do. But it's just a unique perspective, I think, that we collectively bring together to the table. We're okay with saying, hey, look, I don't know. And I don't know about a lot of men who say that. They don't often ask for directions. So I love to ask for directions and ask for help and collaborate with other people and bring that empathy and that way of working into what I'm doing, and pretty much like figuring it out and having that roadmap and building that roadmap along the way, knowing that I don't necessarily know what's going to happen at the end, but I'm going to figure it out constantly.
I love that perspective. Like, I'm going to figure it out. But then to your point specifically about community, that is 100% something I've seen, because now I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of women in leadership roles in technology. And
Mhm.
that's a really big thing that I hear from people, where they'll say, I'm the only woman on the team. I'm having a really hard time relating to these other gentlemen. So it's this intentionality about wanting to find common ground and wanting to work collaboratively and wanting that camaraderie. I can't speak for the gentlemen on the team, but I've certainly seen that theme resonate with the women that I've worked with so far in my career as a coach, and it's definitely there. So thank you for taking the time to speak to that, because I think that's a big persistent theme that I'll probably be saying as I get to know more people that work in tech. Yeah.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah. Oh, it's always learning curve how to interact with our teams. And I guess so right now, I know I heard you describe yourself as a strategist. So I'd love to hear, what is like a project or something that gets you super excited?
That is a big question. I have so many things that get me excited, and I love technology. I always have. It was an interesting find about myself. I didn't know that I had that inside of me. And I could play with technology and AI and the latest generative AI and talk to world experts about what's going on in the field, emerging digital technology, apps that help financial wellness for families and teenagers, and to teach them about financing and budgeting. So pretty much anything that's going to help people in the technology realm gets me really excited. I could do it for hours and not even know time was going by. If I didn't have to walk my dogs or do other things like cook, I would probably just hang out with technology all day. It's so much fun.
I love that. So it almost sounds you find your sense of flow
Yeah.
in technology.
Absolutely. And I just love learning. And I think that continual curiosity is something that I think anyone wanting to be in this field and really know about anything, that having that spark of curiosity and wanting to be innovative can truly help anyone do anything.
Piggybacking off that point, would you say that curiosity or that sense of innovation is a necessary quality for women that are looking to get into technology? Or what do you think is something that has helped you reach the level of success that you have in your career? Like, what is one big takeaway quality you could speak to?
Yes, curiosity, I think, is probably number one, right? What can we do? What can we do? What's the art of the possible? That's one of my favorite terms, is basically what is the art of the possible with what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. When we get little problems or even big challenges that face us or our departments or our companies, having that curiosity mindset and being that innovator and thinking outside the box is really going to be what sets you apart from the people that you are. Maybe if there's two people up for a job, you act more curious, you might not even be the most qualified. I will say in my position, there's almost none of the roles I've gotten in my career have I been qualified for, but they took a chance on me because I was so excited and I was so curious.
Wow. So that innovation and curiosity just it almost seems like a big driver
Mhm.
in a lot of the work that you've done because you've been willing to keep pushing the envelope a little bit further and further and advancing the field.
Yes, it's probably not the best idea, but I've considered myself and some of my team members the wild, wild west. Let's just commit to this and then let's figure out how to do it. And we have to work within our guardrails, especially with technology and compliance, but definitely I have pushed those boundaries to make it work.
Oh, that's so cool. And I love hearing you talk about Wild Wild West because I actually went to a conversation or it was like a moderated panel with the Colorado governor and a lot of other legislators present talking about how AI is going to be regulated, laws that are being passed around AI. And it's just so interesting. And I bring a healthcare and science background to the conversation. And it's really cool to hear your perspective from someone who's actually on the developing end of the technology and working with teams to do it. But from someone that appreciates innovation, I love to hear that there are people out there that are like advancing the field, pushing the envelope, because that is the only way we're going to keep eliciting this change that is driving humanity forward. So I love to hear it. That's so cool.
Absolutely. And my best and favorite motto is fail fast. Just keep moving, fail
Mm,
fast, keep moving, fail fast. And when you do that, you're going to get the best return on your investment.
yeah. So I love that fail fast. I think a lot of times people in leadership are scared to fail. Myself, starting out as a new leader, I was almost paralyzed because I was so nervous to say something wrong, do something wrong, make a mistake. And I was so focused on being right. I wasn't focused on all the things that could be way better than what I
Mhm.
was doing. Can you think of a specific example that fail fast might relate to your work just to help contextualize it for women that are anybody listening, because I think that is such an I'll adopt this motto. I think it's so cool, but just to help people listening contextualize it.
There's so many different examples. There was a program I was working on at one point where we were trying to convert a new mm, piece of an application functionality. Like, it was functionality within an application. So think of a mobile app. We were trying to implement a piece of functionality within this mobile app for almost 900 financial institutions. We started developing it and we were using global teams. So we had software developers on this side of the world, and we had software developers in India. And when we were working on the project, we realized that the teams weren't talking enough. So we
Mm,
had to adjust our work times so that they could talk at 7:30 in the morning and have that daily stand up. So at first we did fail, but we realized really quickly it wasn't working because we weren't collaborating enough with our offshore teams. Once we figured that out, we adjusted our work schedule, got everyone on board, just tweaked it a little bit. The people in India had to work a little bit later. The people in America had to work a little bit earlier, and then it worked. So I think that's just one small example of failing fast. I mean, there's so many different ones. If you're inventing something or developing a physical product for the first time, you're going to have lots of failures before you're going to get that one thing right. But if you do it quickly and you realize that this isn't really working, instead of just trying to hit your head against the wall, just let's see what we can change, and just facilitate that change as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's such a good lesson. And just hearing you talk about collaboration, and a lot of times with technology and these larger scale projects, there are international teams. So being aware of what collaboration looks like to different people, there's still this huge interpersonal aspect of things. And to hear you speak about that from a technology perspective, it just drives home a little bit more about specifically, even in like leadership roles, why pushing for that collaboration is so huge. And I guess I'm also curious to know, because I know that you're a leader in your work, you've managed teams before. So how has leadership changed how you interact with your day-to-day work?
So when you go from, let's say, the expert, right? So you go from, you're identified as a great role model on your team. You get promoted to project manager or leader or manager, and then you get elevated to higher leadership roles. You do have to change your mindset, right? So you have to, or at least what I found for myself is I've had to take myself a little bit back and let the team do their work and do it the way they want to do it, that feels right for them, with guidance from me. So that was probably one of the hardest things, is that when I became a new manager and a new leader, was to know that, yes, I know how to do everything, but I have to let go, I have to delegate, and I have to watch my team grow.
This is such a big thing, I think, you're speaking to a very common experience that I've had. This is like a technical expert stepping into a management role. I know a lot of other people who have this acumen of experience in
Mhm.
whatever their field is, and stepping into a leadership role, it's so different. And to your point, it's like taking that intentional step back and giving your team the space to do things and being almost a support for them. It's
Mhm.
so different. And I love that you said take myself back, because I a lot of times it's easy to want to jump in, want to save people, want to do things, but to your point, fail fast. You almost have to let your team fail too, because that's how they're going to learn. So I really love that you brought this up, because I know that there are a lot of people who are either newer to leadership or thinking about leadership. And it is a big part of it, letting go of your skills a little bit and letting your team shine.
And I'm sure you've definitely dealt with that in your industry.
Oh, absolutely. Especially, and I won't get too much into this now, but as a registered nurse stepping into leadership, all I wanted to do was make sure that patients were taken care of.
Right.
And there are so many different ways to accomplish the same goal, but
Mhm.
it might look a little bit different. So I had to really broaden my perspective of what adequacy could look like and what doing a good job looks like. So yeah, absolutely. And I can talk about that at nauseum. So thank you. Thanks. But it's true for a lot of managers, specifically the women in STEM who have built so much into their career and how they step into these leadership roles. I guess I'll ask a few more questions, but I definitely want to open up the floor to you. And I think that I'll pivot to this topic because leadership can be very stressful. We're gaining new skill sets as leaders, a lot of soft skills, a lot of people management, collaboration, learning how to just manage people, manage our time, and it could just be really, really stressful. So for you, how do you like to relieve stress and keep showing up for yourself when work gets especially challenging?
That is a really big ask. So especially when you're in technology, and you're working often 365 and you're on call 24 hours a day, it when you go into that leadership role and then you're the leader, I think it's really important to be transparent, but only to a point, right? You don't want to let
Mm.
the stress that you're feeling get onto the team. And I've made a mistake there, right? That's happened to me in the past, and I learned from that. And so I think that with just doing a lot of mindful things, for instance, getting together with colleagues and friends and working out and spending time in nature is what really makes me happy, and spending time with my family. So just making sure that I'm very mindful to have those guardrails where I need to have space and not think about work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And a lot of times in leadership roles too, in addition to having self-care, sometimes we adopt mentors in these roles too, which could be helpful. And I'm curious to know if you've ever received exceptionally good advice from a mentor.
Well, you definitely asked the right person. I've been so blessed in my life to have three solid mentors, two of them for more than 10 years. I had a male and a
Oh,
female
wow.
senior to me. And then another person that was I've known for a long time also mentor me that's in my same space. And they've shown up, they've mentored me, they don't cancel. I come with the agenda. And some of the best advice that I've been given by them, so different advice from different people, but is to really make sure that you're staying on top of what needs to be done and that you're the leader. You're like that, you're leading the ship and you're that true North Star for your team and that they can look up to you and you're always there for them. And I
Mm,
think that, and in a good way, right? So you're not their babysitter and you're not their therapist or anything like that, but you're there for them on the work front to really guide them. And that means you're constantly learning about leadership and collaboration and mentorship yourself. And I really would put what I really valued in my mentor's time. That was very valuable time that they provided to me in crucial years. And I actually am still mentored by two of them. So what I found with mentorship and advocacy, by the way, so advocacy is a little bit different than mentorship as far as advocating is someone speaking about you when you're not there and saying, hey, I could see XYZ person would be great for that role. Right. So you know, and I've written articles about it. But yeah, mentorship I think is super important and absolutely helps a leader to have a mentor and to be a mentor and just really being there for your team.
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really love what you said, making sure that you as a leader are the true North Star for your team and being there on the work front. Because so many times as a leader, people probably bring things to you that you really have no power to fix, or perhaps you have to do things that are really tough. And our job is to keep the ship moving forward, even when it gets really bumpy, even when the storms roll in. That metaphor is beautiful, and it's good that you have that external voice in your head in the form of a mentorship. And then calling out advocacy is huge too. And I think that's probably also within the power of people that are your mentors that are pulling for you when you're not in the room. And for any women that are listening to this right now and listening to your words, Rene, what would you encourage them to do? Or like what kind of qualities would you encourage them to look for when they're seeking out a mentor in their roles?
Mhm. Good question. And that is such a asked question. It's a popular question, let me say. So when you're looking for mentors, people you vibe with. And it's not, and this is a true fact to make sure that it's not like you tap someone on the shoulder and you say, hey, I would like you to be my mentor. It's about doing the networking, working, getting yourself introduced to people at your company or adjacent companies in industries. And then if you vibe with someone and you maybe ask them out for coffee, and then it can become a natural type of situation. There are mentorship, and I will get to the actual answer to your question in a minute. But there's a company out there called Score, Score, SCORE. And it's a mentorship program in the United States that I think they're mostly retired leaders that offer their services, I think for free, I believe. And you can be paired up with a true mentor if you don't have access to people in your industry or at your company. Maybe you work for a really small company or a small area. But the qualities that I look for, what helps Like what vibes with you, because not all people are going to get along. And I've run programs actually where I ran a networking program at my company for almost 7 years on gender equality. We had different teams. I had mentorship and advocacy. We had other people that did outreach. We had other people that did other things for gender equality. And our goal was 50-50 by 2020. We didn't actually make it, but we were trying. And with that mentorship program, we would have little socials and we would do like almost like a speed dating. So we would have name tags on different people and we would have men and women in the room. It was not just women, it was just like men and women combination. And we also had men on our advocacy and mentoring group teams. And people could get to know each other. And then we would have kind of a layout where they would have a format for their first couple of meetings until they got into the groove. So different organizations and companies do have those type of programs.
That's wonderful. And you have such great experience running those programs. 50-50 by 2020. That's going to stick in my head for a long time. That's really catchy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I think that wisdom is that networking is always a value add. You never know who you're going to bump into. You never know what type of relationship you're going to form. So that's really good. And to your point, that SCORE group. And then there's also AWIS, Women in Tech Networking. There's so many different resources out there for women who are looking for mentors as well. And for you, Rene, you specifically, I would love to hear a win that you've had recently. What is like a big win? And I know you've had a few as well. So please don't be shy. Share away. We want to hear it all.
Yes, I would love to do that. Two things I want to share with your audience. I think that especially with, you said STEM, right? So I'll share with my win in a second. But one thing, this is a book, hopefully you can see it, that I've recently read. It's called Innovators, and it's by Walter Isaacson. And it's about how a group of hackers, geniuses, geeks created the digital revolution. But you see there's this woman up here, her name's Ada Lovelace. And I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but when I read this book, all computer programmers, by the way, a lot of them, when they're writing their code, they sign Ada. She was the first computer programmer ever. And from like
no idea.
I want to say 17 or 1800s. I should have probably memorized that before I showed you this book, but it talks about Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, lots of other people, but this book was pivotal to my career and innovation. So that's a book I'm going to recommend to people. And then it gave me the thought a couple of years ago to write my own book, because I wanted to, what would I have wanted as a new leader? Like, what would be my roadmap and what would be my guiding path? And there's a million books out there on leadership, but what about women specifically? Mm-hmm. And I ended up writing a book called Women's Success and Corporate Leadership. So it came out in May of 2024, and I'm super excited and super proud of it. It took several years to put together. And again, Women's Success and Corporate Leadership, it's on Amazon, and I'm just so excited about it. I've gotten tons of great feedback. I'm actually simultaneously this next week, I'm on another panel discussion on AI, and they found me through my book because I have a couple of pages in there about AI and making sure that as anyone in technology and as a leader, we need to make sure that we're at least aware of AI and learn about enough about it to be able to speak to it.
Oh my gosh, those are huge wins. That book, such a big accomplishment. Congratulations. That's such a big accomplishment for a new book. I know that you provided me a number, but I don't want to misquote you. How many reviews are you up to now?
I'm close to 150 reviews right now in the United States. And then I have almost 40 reviews on the audio, which is separate. And then it's separate in Canada and the United Kingdom.
That's so amazing. Congratulations. And yeah, women's leadership, especially in technology, AI, it could just look different. So thank you for being willing to share your unique perspectives. And I think that my last question before I just open up the floor, what is the biggest thing that you've learned from working in tech?
First of all, I love technology, and there's so much to learn, But I would say that the biggest thing I've learned is never give up and never think that you can't do it. You can learn anything. Anyone can learn anything. I didn't even learn how to read until I was maybe in fourth grade. I wanted to be a fashion designer and I did not want to learn how to type. And here I am in technology and type constantly all day, every day. Love it. So never give up. Don't think you can't do anything, because you can do anything that you put your mind to. And I've known when I put my mind to something, that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is know your value and know that you can learn anything.
Wow. Thank you. That's huge. And so often people probably get discouraged from trying new things. And it's so true though. Like the human brain is amazing, but what is even more amazing is like when you build up that tenacity to keep moving forward, even when things get tough. And
Yeah,
you've
it's
done it, Renee.
thanks. Grit and tenacity and resilience are going to be your superpowers.
Oh, I am so excited that we had this opportunity to chat. And if people need to get a hold of you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Sounds good. I think LinkedIn is probably the best way to get a hold of me. I have a LinkedIn page, Rene Clayton, and that's probably the best way to get a hold of me and the quickest.
Thank you so much for your time, Renee. It was so lovely getting to know you even more. And I'm just so excited to keep in touch with you and see where things keep advancing for you.
I really appreciate the time and for you asking me to be on your podcast.
Oh, of course. Like I said, no one else I thought of before you. So thank you so much. And yeah, thanks y'all for tuning in. Bye-bye.